The unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. As we were saying the verse just now, I realized that these Buddhist teachings that we offer are so much bigger than self. It's just grand. So here we are, myself, trying to give expression to something that is huge, universal, but I'll give it my best shot. All right. I picked a topic that I hope will be relevant to today and to us and to people in general, because I think there's a need for help in the world, and as Buddhist practitioners we do what we can to add to that. So what I'd like to talk about is gaining confidence in the practice of benefiting others and ourselves. You know, it's one thing to have a practice and to offer merit, but how do we gain confidence so that we are, inspired to continue to do that? You know, and what does that mean? Well, I'm not going to do that exactly directly, but I'm going to do it through stories because I like to do that. But I do find, I'm not sure if this is right to say this, but benefiting means a good fit in my mind. I don't really know if that's true, but bena is good and fit is fit. So what we're trying to look for, or I'm trying to look for in this talk, is how to make a good fit with our humanness. And also, in helping others, there's a good fit to realizing that also helps ourselves. And that's something I'd like to, hopefully will reveal itself. I like stories. So here's a story that I happened upon when I was checking the news. This was in February, and it was February 18th, 2022. And I was looking for something that was uplifting, and I found it. It was right in the center of the news there. And it was a story, it was a video. I actually looked at this video, and it was a video of a very famous world-class cellist, Yo-Yo Ma. And I just happened upon it. And he's a remarkable person. I don't think if you know, but he does what he calls surprise performances. And so he'll do all these just out of the blue, all of a sudden you hear in the news. Yo-Yo Ma has given a performance at like a COVID place in testing site in Alabama. Well, this one was a little bit different. He was giving a performance. It was surprise, and but he does the way he does it. He lets the news media know that he is doing this. You know, this is how I find it out, and I'm telling you about it. So this one was a musical one with him on his cellist, and he had his cello there, but it was with another person. It wasn't just by himself. And so the other person was a woman. Excuse me with the story. Don't like to cry, but that's just the way it is. Okay. And her story was that when she was a child, she liked to play the French horn. And so this is a performance of Yo-Yo Ma with his cello and her with her French horn. And what they did, it was a very short clip, it was one song, And the song was The Sound of Silence. You know, I think a lot of us are familiar with that, Simon and Garfunkel's old song. And that was a song that she picked out, okay? And her, the reason that she agreed to do this with Yo-Yo Ma, I mean, I don't think that I would want to play along with him. It's kind of like a mismatch to begin with, but she was willing to do this because the performance was a protest against gun violence. And this woman, her name is Gabby Gifford, and you may have heard her in the news in 2011. She was a congresswoman in the U.S., and in the process of doing her job, she was shot in the head with a gun. And so this was like in 2011, 11 years ago, and she has tried to heal herself through, and part of it is playing the French horn, okay? So you have these two people with their two instruments, and she's playing the French horn, which is a very difficult instrument to play, and then he is on his cello. They're playing The Sound of Silence. And so I was very interested in listening to that. And so Yo-Yo Ma, in his amazing skill as a cellist, just kind of danced around, and, you know, they stuck with the melody of The Sound of Silence. She played the melody, and then he did his kind of background, beautiful cello playing. But it wasn't prominent. The thing was they were playing together. And excuse me, here I'm good. The thing that struck me was that she was so brave, because she was playing the cello, and quite frankly, she didn't hit all the right notes. You know, which, you know, I didn't feel like it was because she was nervous or unskilled. This was her way of healing, and this is how she healed, and this is what she had to offer. And it was there. You could tell it was The Sound of Silence, but she didn't, it wasn't perfect. But they played it together, and it, like I said, it was only like a minute or so. They played one verse of The Sound of Silence. But then afterwards, they both kind of looked at each other and just came together in this wonderful way of, you know, it was like fun. They were friends, and they supported each other, and it didn't feel like either one of them had an agenda or was trying to make a point or was trying to, you know, they didn't hold up gun, you know, things. It wasn't kind of that thing. It was like coming together, two people, supporting each other, and each in their own way, with wholehearted effort, coming together, and it turned out to be a very beneficial thing for themselves. And then for me to see that was just beautiful. It wasn't perfect, and it didn't need to be perfect, because the important thing is these two people came together in this joyful way because they played music together. It was on a ledge somewhere. I don't know where it was, but it was a really good story for it, and it inspired me. Now, in thinking about this topic of benefiting others and ourselves, I came across a poem that I like that is by Wendell. And the story of the poem, I'm not going to read to you because it's kind of long, but it is about Wendell obviously had a friend, that he felt was a very good person. And this person died. It was a neighbor, I believe. It doesn't really kind of spell out the whole story. And then this person died. The neighbor died. The good person died. But part of the one verse of the poem just has really stuck with me, and I want to share it with you. And it goes like this. Though now he has no time for us, so this is Wendell talking about the person that died, he stays with us in time. Here I go again. A good in us learned from the good in him. I really like those words. Very well said, skillful. A good in us learned from the good in him. And I think about how many acts of kindness that we have received that were wholeheartedly just good people without kind of an agenda or expecting something in return. And what I feel is that in each and every one of us have experienced these kinds of kindness. And that kindness plants a seed in us that doesn't really die. It's there, it's alive. It may be hidden, but it's something that we can bring out in ourselves. And it's a true seed, a true of heart seed that I feel that we can, not make it into anything in particular, but allow it to grow in its own way so that we can acknowledge it in our lives, give it expression, if we want to. Like I said, the world needs that kind of stuff, so we have a potential. Here's another story. So here's another story that I like a lot, is we watched a movie called Mission, and it was a joy with Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama having conversations. They were spent a week together in Dharmasala in India. And part of that was they had gone to, in Dharmasala there's a school. And so that's part of their program in Dharmasala is to educate children, Tibetan children. And most of them, if not all of them, have been traumatized by being separated from their parents or having to flee from Tibet. So they had all these kids. It was a wonderful sight to see. All these kids, I don't know how many, it looked like hundreds of them, were looking forward to hearing Dalai Lama, and the Desmond Tutu, who was a religious leader in South Africa. I don't know if everybody knows who that is. World leader, very kind of on the same caliber as, but on the same caliber as Dalai Lama in terms of spiritual practice and depth and joy. But these two were having they were interviewing these kids, one at a time, and just, how are you? Do you miss your parents? How are you doing? That kind of stuff, just non-threatening kind of questions. And so they went through a few of the kids, and then they came to a young girl, must have been about 8. And she stood up bravely, and I think one of the commentator, or what do you call it, facilitator, said, do you miss your family since you have left Tibet, your family and your home? And she started to cry. So I'll cry too, no I won't. So she started to cry and said she really missed her family. And so the two of these, Dalai Lama and the Desmond Tutu, they didn't kind of rush in, but they just let her cry for a little bit because she was really obviously upset. Young girl, trying to make sense out of her world in a very different place in Dharmasala. And the thing that struck me is the responses of the two men. So Desmond Tutu was the first to reply, and he was very sympathetic and said, he wholeheartedly, he sympathized with this young girl about how tough it must be in her grief, and just really was right with her. And saying, I'm so sorry this has happened to you, and I just wish it hadn't, and that kind of thing. And she heard it, but she was still crying. And then the next one, the Dalai Lama, he had a different approach, and the thing he said would be, he was very calm, and both of them were very loving, had a lot of loving kindness toward this young girl. He said, something like, you're in school now, and if you can get a good education, you might grow strong, and then you can help out your friends here in Dharmasala, and maybe your family and your, everything that you left behind. In other words, it was a really different approach, but it was kind of like, here you've got a good opportunity to help. And it's not going to be easy, but this is what he said to her. And I felt like those were two very different aspects of kindness and generosity between the two. Both very, very helpful. And that's part of the point of why I talked about benefiting others, is that there's no one approach. We have a lot of different ways that we can approach these different kinds of situations. And one isn't more anything than the other. There's this good-hearted intention to help, and that's what comes through, not the wisdom or the sympathy. Okay. Now, let's see here. Now, moving on to offering merit. I think that's something that I know I would say probably all the monks here are doing towards the current situation in Ukraine for the people there. What I have found is that it's a difficult situation for sure, and lots of suffering. And it seems to me that there's a lot of different people in the world that are offering merit for that situation. I got an email the other day that said it was not even our religion, a Christian woman, saying that they were going to do a service for the people in Ukraine, and said, would you like to join us? And it seems like everywhere I look and hear, I see a lot of merit being offered. Okay? But what I've experienced from my own self is when I look at the situations on the news, that I feel alone sometimes in trying to understand it and trying to make an offering from my own self. And what it turns into partially is it's a burden that I don't know what to do with. Because if I see one story, if you look at the news too much, which I have said that it's not a good idea, I hear another story of somebody else in a different situation that is really in a tough situation. And then I can hear another one. And after a while, I just can't take it in. It's just like my heart is breaking. And I can't handle it. Gotta get overwhelmed like I am right now. However, what comes to me is this, that when I did that initially, I just felt that I'm going to offer merit to the people in Ukraine. I felt like that was important for me to do, and I did that in meditation, in our meditation hall. And what I felt was so amazing to me. It just was heartfelt, but I felt like I was joining this huge amount of people, like a crowd of people that were offering merit. It was remarkable. It was just like this huge energy that, and this is kind of my way of noticing that it was like I wasn't alone. It was like I was joining this group that we were all trying to help in a way we knew how, and that was offering prayers or good wishes to the people in the Ukraine. And somehow that relieved my burden, because I could join them in the offering. It helped. It helped. And I say to myself, we are so lucky to be able to offer merit. Why? I say, if we even have a wish to offer merit, I think there's a lot of people that it doesn't even occur to them to do such a thing. Well, we do. We do this a lot. And I think what a valuable thing we have here. And it is effective. It is powerful. If you think of all the people that are thinking the same thoughts about well-wishing people in the Ukraine, that does have an effect. And I think most of us can say something like, I've been on the receiving side of merit, and I know that it actually works. So I feel like, there's something there that is, in a way, it's like the Ukraine situation has galvanized a lot of people to do this very thing. And I think, well, sometimes that's what it takes, is just a really horrible situation to galvanize people to come together in a common ground of offering merit, or doing other things, But that's I find that is remarkable, and we're part of that. I find there is a joy there, and it's well grounded in these people that are actually suffering. Getting back to being overwhelmed, I found what I call skillful means with that is that I don't want to be overwhelmed with the stories. There's plenty, because I don't know that it really helps the situation of offering merit or myself either, because I can get drained of offering merit if it's too overwhelming emotionally. And I know the emotions are not what is helpful to people. And I'm still human, of course. But what I do now is, and I find it works very well, I wholeheartedly listen to a story and recognize it. I accept it. I see it. And then I move on and I say, I really wish them well. And then I let it go. And I feel like by letting that go and not taking it on as some burden that I have to sort through or deal with or make sense of, carry, don't know, that if I can just wish them, accept it, look at it, with those eyes of not turning away wholeheartedly, and say, I wish you well with a good heart. I feel like that is what I can do for myself and for the other people. I think that actually helps other people more than getting all emotional. And what also I find with this is that it gives me, I have some spiritual sustainability so that I'm not used up in a certain kind of way, but I can continue to offer merit. I want to offer merit because I don't take it on as like this huge weight. It's a skill. And I feel like for me right now that works well enough so that I can continue to wholeheartedly look at these situations that are really dire, and they don't stop, and you just can't believe what what is being put in their way sometimes. But that's what they've got, and that's what we can do. I don't foresee any of us going over to the Ukraine and trying to help out in that way. It just is not feasible. All right. So that's another thing. And then this is a different aspect, a deeper aspect of benefiting others. And it relates to Reverend Master Jiyu. And I wanted to look at her life again, like we all do a lot, because she went through World War II, and we all know this, or most of us do. And it wasn't like she was distanced from the war. She was right in it, and said that she had lost a lot of her good friends. They were killed right in the same neighborhood that she was, So this is on the ground. She witnessed the war, as a lot of people are doing in the Ukraine. And that's why I was drawn to see what came out of that for her. Well, what came out of that, of course, is that she went to the East with her question, why is there so much cruelty? Why is there so much bloodshed? And how did the Nazis get away with it? So that's one of the reasons that she traveled all the way to the East, was to find the answer to that question. Well, this is what happened when she got there. She had teachers there that actually pointed her to the possibility of asking another kind of question. And that was, the question was, when was the first arising of selfishness? And you could say, well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to kind of say, how can you help these people, these questions I have, and then all of a sudden say, why are you selfish? It just didn't do that. But she was there, she didn't know what else to do, and she was suffering a lot from the experience she had gone through with the suffering in her own, country. And what she needed to find, her teachers were saying, you need to find true answers to true questions. So that was what she had, was the first arising of selfishness. Well, she stuck that out, not finding an answer right away, and we'll never know what that answer was. It was hers. However, what she did is she found an answer for herself that was found through her Buddhist practice, through her sticking it out in Japan and coming to America and starting Shasta Abbey. These are kind of things, these true answers, whatever it might be, that we all have within ourselves to find our own true answers to our own true questions, is that she found her answer and lived it in accordance with her life. And what has happened with that is we're here at Shasta Abbey because of her relentlessly, trying to find out what was her true question and what was her true answer. So here we are at the Abbey. And this is a good thing, because now we could ask our own selves, what is our true question? What is our own true answer? And that is turning inwards instead of outwards. Because isn't that, I don't know if you'd agree with me, but that's how we help the world out. We help ourselves, we help others out. So in closing, I want to say, in gratitude to her Master Jiyu, I have reworded the poem, the verse that Wendell has written, saying, though now she has no time for us, she stays with us in time. A good in us learned from the good in her. And for me, that's palatable. And I can say yes and thank you. I didn't think I'd get emotional, but that's just the way it is. But so I think we have a lot of room to work through all this stuff. And so thanks for listening to me.